Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Rowe. We're looking in Algebra Part B. This is lesson 17. We're going to look at how to solve a quadratic equation using some extreme factoring. So now this is a technique I've showed you in some other videos. If you haven't seen them, go to my YouTube channel and check out those extreme factoring videos. And this is kind of a new technique that I've kind of discovered, and I'm hoping that it helps solving these quadratics by factoring a little bit easier. So let's take a look at two examples. So here's the deal on all these examples. What we're trying to do, and let's go back to this page and talk about this a second. We're trying to solve a quadratic equation. Quadratic equations are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's the key thing, they have to equal 0. So make sure you're always getting everything on one side first, then trying to use one of the techniques that we talked about in the lesson. So here's an example. Again, this has to be 0. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 16 to both sides, giving us 12x squared plus 58x plus 56 equals 0. Now once we get there, we're going to look to see if there's any kind of common term. There's an x right there, Mr. Rowe. Make sure you pay attention. So then we will look for a common term that will factor out, and we want to divide that out. So in this case, all of these are divisible by 2. So I can simply divide each one of these terms by 2 without changing the actual final answers of the problem, because 0 divided by 2 is 0. So that changes nothing. So this becomes 6x squared plus 29x plus 28 equals 0. Here's where the factoring part comes in. Here's where the extreme factoring technique works. So for the extreme factoring technique, we're going to draw a giant X across the screen. And then we're going to take a couple things and do just a couple little quick techniques to help factor this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply A times C. A times C. So 28 times 6 is going to equal 168. So I'm going to put a 168 right there, and it is a positive 168, which is important. I'm going to take my middle term, B, and we'll put it right here. Now here's where the extreme factoring starts to happen. I want to find factors of 168 that add to equal 29. So what are some factors of 128? And actually the add comes from right here. What are some factors of 168 that add to equal 29? Well, factors of 168, how about 21x and 8x? Now, where did I get 21 and 8 from? Well, if we divide this by 8, that happens 21 times. 21 times 8 would equal 29. 21 times 8 equals 168. And I put an X there because we have to have some X's in our answers or our factors. So that's what we're going to use to kind of do our extreme factors. So always put X's in. And these are both plus signs. So now here is where our final factoring happens. We always take these terms right here. So I'm going to take this over to the side, and I'm going to divide it by that. It's always that term. And then I want to reduce. So how does this reduce? Well, they both have x's, so the x will factor out, and they both are divisible by 3, so this will become 7 over 2x. So now here is the magic that happens here. That factor will be 2x plus 7. Just following the signs. Bottom and then the top sign is plus, so 2x plus 7. Don't worry about y. That's just how it works out every time. So now let's look at the other side. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to take the 8x. We're going to divide by 6x squared. Again, we're going to simplify and reduce the fraction. So the top, they're both divisible by 2, so the top becomes 4. The bottom becomes 3x. And there's our factors, 3x plus 4. So there are the extreme factors. So it's factored. Now what do? We have to set each one of these factors equal to 0. So we got 2x plus 7 equals 0. We're going to subtract 7. We're going to divide by 2. And we're going to get x equals negative 7/2 as one of our answers. Now, we have to find the other factor. So I'm trying to make some space here. I'm going to set this other one equal to 0. 3x plus 4 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 4. I get 3x equals negative 4. I'm going to divide by 3. And so x would equal negative 4/3. So there are my two answers to this quadratic using extreme factoring. So there's done right there. That's the two answers. Let's look at one more example. All right, so here's our second example. We got 9x squared minus 30x minus 18 equals 6. First thing I always want to do is to get the right side equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 6 from each side, giving me 9x squared minus 30x minus 24 equals 0. Everything's divisible by 3, so I'm going to divide by 3. 3x squared minus 10x minus 8 equals 0. I'm going to do my extreme factoring. Multiply leading coefficient and last coefficient. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. So I'm multiplying this times this, negative 24. Put my middle term down the bottom. So I want factors of negative 24 that do this, subtract to equal 10. Factors of 24 that subtract to equal 10. That's going to be negative 12x. That's going to be negative or positive 2x. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 minus 2 is 10. Got my factors. So I'm going to do my extreme factoring. I've got negative 12x divided by 3x squared. I'm going to reduce. Both have x's, so an x will cancel. Divide both by 3, so that becomes negative 4 over, not 3, Mr. Rowe, just over x. Because one of the x's cancels out, the 3 cancels. So one of my factors is x minus 4. Take my other term, 2x over 3x squared. I'm going to reduce it. The only thing that reduces here is 1x will cancel. And I'll become 2 over 3x. So there's my factor. And that's a positive. So this becomes 3x plus 2. That's my other factor. Set each factor equal to 0. That's how you solve quadratic equations. If you didn't understand from the lesson, understand it now. That's what you do. You set them equal to 0. So I've got x minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to each side. And so x will equal 4. That's one of my answers right there. Solve the other one. I've got 3x plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 2 from each side. I've got 3x equals negative 2. Divide by 3. My last answer right here will be x equals negative 2/3. So there are my two answers to this quadratic using the extreme factoring technique. I hope this helps you with the lesson. If you still need help solving these quadratics, please let me know in a future message and make an appointment for a help session.